The night sky above New Bizen was always beautiful. 2 moons hung low over the wheat fields, casting silver light across the valley. Kang Tae stood on his porch and watched the stars like he did every evening. His wife Yuna was inside, putting their daughter Sue to bed. He could hear Sue laughing at something her mother said. The sound made him smile. Tae had been a commander in the Republic Navy for 15 years. He had seen battles. He had lost friends. He had grown tired of war. So when the colony program opened land on this distant world, he took his family and left everything behind. For 3 years, they built a life here. He grew crops. Yuna taught at the small school. Sue made friends with the neighbor children. It was peaceful. It was home. He never thought the war would find him here. The first sign was the lights in the sky. Tae thought they were shooting stars at first. Then they grew brighter. Then they grew closer. His military training woke up inside him like a sleeping animal. Those were not stars. Those were ships. He ran inside and grabbed Yuna's arm. "We need to go. Now." She saw the fear in his eyes. She did not ask questions. She picked up Sue, who was half asleep, and followed him out the back door. They ran toward the mountains east of the colony. Other families were running too. No one knew what was happening, but everyone felt it. Something bad was coming. The first ship landed in the center of town. It was huge and black, shaped like a blade. The doors opened and soldiers poured out. They were tall, gray-skinned creatures with 4 arms and eyes that glowed yellow in the dark. The Velik. Tae had heard of them. Everyone had. They controlled 40 star systems and treated other species like insects. The killing started immediately. Tae pushed his family into the trees as the screams began. Plasma fire lit up the night. Houses exploded. People fell. The Velik moved through the colony without mercy. They were not here for resources or territory. They were here for slaves. "Keep moving," Tae whispered to Yuna. "Don't stop. Don't look back." They climbed higher into the mountains. Sue was crying quietly against her mother's shoulder. Tae carried an old rifle he had taken from the house. It would do nothing against Velik armor, but it made him feel less helpless. They hid in a cave for 2 days. Below them, the colony burned. Transport ships came and went, carrying people away. Tae counted them. 6 ships. Maybe 800 people taken. The rest were dead. On the 3rd day, Tae made a decision. He needed to see how many soldiers remained. He needed to find a way to get his family to the emergency beacon on the far side of the valley. Maybe they could call for help. Maybe someone would come. "Stay here," he told Yuna. "I'll be back before dark." She grabbed his hand. "Be careful." He kissed her forehead. He kissed Sue's hair. Then he left. He moved through the forest like a ghost. His old training came back to him step by step. How to walk without sound. How to stay low. How to watch. The Velik had set up a camp in what remained of the town square. There were about 30 soldiers and 2 officers. They were laughing. One of them was holding a human child's toy and examining it like a strange artifact. Tae felt anger rise in his chest. He pushed it down. Anger would get him killed. He needed to think. He was moving back toward the cave when he heard the screams. They had found his family. He ran. He did not care about noise anymore. He did not care about being seen. He burst out of the trees and saw 5 Velik soldiers dragging Yuna and Sue toward a transport ship. Yuna was fighting. She was screaming his name. Sue was reaching for her mother. Crying, Tae raised his rifle and fired. The shot hit one soldier in the neck, below the armor. The creature fell. The others turned. Tae fired again. And again. He hit another one. Then his rifle clicked empty. A plasma bolt hit him in the chest. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. It burned through his body like liquid fire. He fell to his knees. Through blurring eyes, he saw the soldiers throw Una and Sue into the ship. He saw Una's face. She was screaming something. He could not hear the words. Another bolt hit him in the shoulder. He fell forward into the dirt. The last thing he heard was an officer's voice. It was speaking in the Velic language, but Tay's translator chip still worked. The officer said, "Leave him. One human is nothing. Let the animals eat him." Then there was only darkness. Tay woke 3 days later. He did not know how he survived. The wounds had somehow stopped bleeding. Maybe his body's healing systems had saved him. Maybe it was something else. He did not care. He dragged himself to his feet and looked around. The colony was gone. Every building was burned. Every field was ash. Bodies lay in the streets, covered in dust. The transport ships were gone. The Velic were gone. His family was gone. He walked through the ruins for hours. He found neighbors he had known, friends, children who used to play with Sue, all dead. All left behind like garbage. Near what remained of his house, he found something in the rubble. A small shoe, pink with white flowers. Sue's shoe. She had been wearing the other one when they took her. Tay held the shoe in his hands. He stood there for a long time. He did not cry. He did not scream. Something had changed inside him. The man who wanted peace, who wanted a simple life, who was tired of war, that man was dead. He had died in that ditch with a hole in his chest. The man who stood up was someone else. He looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velic were taking his wife and daughter to a place of pain and darkness. They thought he was dead. They thought one human was nothing. They were wrong. Tay put the small shoe in his pocket. He walked toward the emergency beacon. There was a ship there, an old fighter from the Colonial Defense Force. It was damaged, but it might fly. He had work to do. The galaxy would learn what one human could become when everything was taken from him. The Velic would learn the price of their cruelty. It would not be today. It would not be tomorrow. But it would come. And when it did, they would remember the name of the world they had destroyed. New. BUSAN. And the name of the man they had left for dead. Kong Tay. 6 months passed. In the dark corners of the galaxy, people started telling stories. They spoke of a ghost who hunted the Velic, a shadow that appeared without warning and disappeared without trace. Supply ships vanished. Outposts went silent. Patrol vessels were found drifting in space, their crews dead, their cargo gone. The Velic commanders did not believe these stories at first. They controlled the largest military in 3 sectors. Their soldiers numbered in the millions. What could one creature do against such power? They called the stories lies, rumors, propaganda from weaker species who wanted to feel brave. Then the reports kept coming, and the commanders stopped laughing. Kong Tay flew through the fringe systems in a ship that should not have worked. He had found it at New Bizin, an old Republic fighter, half-burned and forgotten. He spent 2 weeks fixing it with parts from the wreckage. He added things he found on the Velic bodies. Their weapons, their shields, their communication systems. When he was finished, the ship looked like a monster built from pieces of other monsters. He called it nothing. It did not need a name. His first target was a Velic supply ship carrying food to an outpost. He disabled its engines with 2 shots, boarded it alone, and killed everyone inside. He took the food and gave it to a refugee station run by a species called the Mori. They were small, furry creatures who had also suffered under the Velic. They looked at him with fear and wonder. "Who are you?" They asked. "No one," he said. And he left. His second target was a slave transport. He tracked it for 3 days, learning its patterns, memorizing its crew rotations. When he attacked, he hit the communication array first, so they could not call for help. Then he hit the engines. Then he boarded. The Velic guards did not expect him. They expected armies. They expected fleets. They did not expect one human with a stolen rifle and eyes full of cold fire. Tay moved through the ship like smoke. He killed 12 soldiers in 4 minutes. He freed 40 slaves humans, Mori, and others. He gave them the transport ship and told them to run. Before they left, an old human woman grabbed his arm. "My son was on your colony. New Bizen. Did anyone survive?" Tay looked at her. "Some were taken. I'm looking for them." "Bless you," she whispered. He did not feel blessed. He felt empty. But he kept moving. Weeks turned into months. Tay attacked 17 Velic outposts. He destroyed patrol ships. He stole weapons, supplies, and information. Every officer he captured, he asked the same question: "Where are the humans from New Bizan?" Most did not know. Some lied. Some begged for mercy. Tay had no mercy left. He had buried it in the ashes of his home. Finally, an officer told him something useful. The slaves from New Bizan had been sent to a prison world called Morth 5. It was deep in Velic territory. It was heavily guarded. No one escaped from Morth-5. Tay thanked the officer. Then he did what he did to all the others. In the fringe, a young woman named Era heard the stories about the ghost. She was a human who had grown up on space stations, surviving by selling information to whoever would pay. She was smart. She was careful. And she was curious. She started tracking the ghost's movements. It was not easy. He left almost no trail. But Era was good at her job. She noticed patterns, attack locations, timing, targets. After 3 months, she finally found him at a fueling station on a dead moon. She walked up to his ship and knocked on the hull. The door opened, and she found herself looking at the barrel of a gun. "Who are you?" Tay asked. His voice was flat. His eyes were darker than space. "My name is Era. I'm human. I've been looking for you." "Why?" "Because I want to help." Tay studied her for a long moment. Then he lowered the gun. "I don't need help." "Everyone needs help," Era said. "Even ghosts." She told him what she knew. She had contacts everywhere: smugglers, merchants, freed slaves, rebels. She could get him information faster than he could find it himself. She could warn him about traps. She could find safe places to hide and repair his ship. Tay listened. When she finished, he shook his head. "I work alone. People who stay near me die." "People everywhere are dying," Era said. "At least let them die fighting." He did not answer. He closed the door and flew away. But Era did not give up. She kept sending him information. Safe routes through dangerous systems. Velic patrol schedules. Locations of supply caches. She never asked for anything in return. She never tried to follow him. She just helped. Slowly, Tay began to use her information. He never thanked her. He never spoke to her. But he used it, and his attacks became more effective. The Velic finally understood that the ghost was real. An admiral named Gorath was put in charge of finding and killing him. Gorath was old and experienced. He had crushed rebellions before. He deployed 500 ships to patrol the fringe. He set traps. He offered rewards for information. None of it worked. Tay was always one step ahead. He struck where they did not expect. He vanished before they could respond. He was not fighting a war. He was haunting them. One night, Gorath received a report. 17 outposts had been destroyed in a single week. More than 200 Velic soldiers were dead. The admiral stared at the report for a long time. His hands were shaking. Then his communication officer called him to the bridge. They had found a wrecked patrol ship drifting near the border. It was empty, but someone had burned a message into its hull using a plasma torch. Gorath looked at the image on his screen. The message was 3 words, written in human script. I am coming. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Gorath felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. Real fear. Not of an army. Not of a fleet. Of one human. Somewhere in the darkness of space, Tay flew toward Velic territory. Morith 5 was still far away. But every day, he got closer. Every day, the Velic learned what it meant to be hunted. He thought of Yuna. He thought of Sue. He thought of the small, pink shoe in his pocket. He would find them. No matter how many bodies he had to leave behind. No matter how far he had to go. No matter what it cost him, the ghost was coming. And the galaxy was beginning to understand what that meant. The Great Hall of the Galactic Concord was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed inside it. Its walls were carved from stone, taken from 100 different worlds. Representatives from dozens of species sat in floating platforms, arranged in a circle around a central stage. This was where the powers of the galaxy came to talk, argue, and pretend they cared about peace. Today, the topic was one human. The Velic ambassador was a tall creature named Drenek. He stood at the center stage with all 4 arms raised in anger. His yellow eyes burned as he spoke. This terrorist has killed thousands of our people. He has destroyed military property worth billions. He has disrupted trade across 3 sectors. And your Concord does nothing. The other ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. The Velic were powerful. No one wanted to anger them. But no one wanted to help them either. A small, round creature from the Mori delegation spoke up. Perhaps if the Velic had not attacked a peaceful colony, this would not have happened. Drenek turned on him with fury. That colony was in disputed territory. We had every right. You had no right, another voice said. You killed innocents. You took slaves. And now you are surprised that someone fights back. The Velic ambassador slammed his fist on the podium. We demand that the human government hand over this criminal. We demand justice. You demand? A new voice cut through the hall. It belonged to the human ambassador, Park Day. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. He walked to the center stage with slow, measured steps. You come here and demand justice from humans? After what you did? Drenek sneered. One of your kind has declared war on us. Control your people. Park Day smiled. It was not a warm smile. You misunderstand. I am not here to apologize. I am here to explain something to this Concord. Something about my species that perhaps you have forgotten. The hall went quiet. 3 years ago, Park Day said, a man named Kong Tay lived on New Bizin with his wife and daughter. He was a farmer. He wanted nothing but peace. Then your soldiers came. They burned his home. They killed his neighbors. They took his wife and daughter and left him for dead in a ditch. He paused and looked around the hall. You took everything from him. His world. His family. His reason to live. And now you ask why he fights? You ask us to stop him? Park Day shook his head. We cannot stop him, even if we wanted to, because this is what humans are. We do not surrender. We do not forget. And we do not forgive. Drenek laughed, but it sounded forced. One human cannot threaten the Velic Dominion. One human has already killed more of your soldiers than any army in the last century, Park Day replied. One human has made your admirals afraid to sleep. One human has turned your empire into a joke. And if you had any wisdom, you would be asking yourselves, what happens when more humans decide to join him? The hall was silent. The other species were watching with new expressions on their faces. Not pity, not fear. Something else. Interest. Hope. The Velic had bullied the galaxy for centuries. And now one human was making them bleed. Park Day turned and walked back to his platform. Before he sat down, he looked at Drennick one more time. The ghost is not our problem. He is yours. You created him. Now live with him. Far from the Concord, in a hidden station on a frozen moon, Tay was studying maps. Era had sent him everything she could find about Morth 5. The prison world was located deep inside Velic territory. It held over 50,000 slaves from a dozen different species. The guards numbered in the thousands. Defense platforms orbited the planet. Ships patrolled constantly. It was impossible to attack. Everyone knew this. Tay did not care about impossible. He had found records showing that prisoners from New Bizen were sent to Morth 5 18 months ago. The records did not say if they were still alive. The records did not say where in the prison they were being held. But they were there. His wife, his daughter. Somewhere in that hell. He would find them or die trying. Ira's voice came through his communication system. You're planning to hit Morth 5, aren't you? He did not answer. It's suicide, she said. You know that. Yes. Then why? Tay looked at the small pink shoes sitting on his console. Because I promised. Era was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, You'll need help. I told you. I work alone, and you'll die alone. Is that what your daughter needs? A dead hero? Or a father who actually saves her? Tay's jaw tightened. He wanted to argue. He wanted to tell her that he had made it this far by himself, that other people would only slow him down, that he did not deserve help after failing to protect his family. But she was right. Morth 5 was too big, too guarded, too far. He could not do this alone. What do you suggest? He finally asked. Let me make some calls, Era said. You freed a lot of people over the past year. Saved a lot of lives. Some of them might want to return the favor. He did not believe it would work. He did not believe anyone would risk their lives for a stranger's fight. But he said, Fine, make your calls. Era did more than make calls. She sent messages across the fringe. She reached out to every freed slave, every smuggler, every human living in the dark corners of the galaxy. She told them about Morth 5. She told them about the man who had been fighting alone for over a year. She told them that he was going to attack the most heavily guarded prison in Velic territory. And she asked a simple question. Will you help? The answer started coming back within hours. Yes. From stations and ships and hidden colonies. From people who had lost everything and people who still had something to lose. From humans who had heard the stories of the ghost and wanted to be part of something bigger than themselves. Era smiled as she counted the responses. Then she opened a channel to Tay. You're not going alone, she said. Not anymore. Tay stared at the list of names and ships she sent him. His hands trembled slightly. He did not know what to say. So he said nothing. He just started planning the attack. The galaxy had been watching. Now it was about to see what happened when humans stopped fighting alone. Morth-5 was a gray world covered in stone and ash. Nothing grew there. Nothing lived there except prisoners and guards. The Velic had built their largest prison complex in the northern hemisphere, a maze of metal and rock that stretched for miles beneath the surface. 50,000 slaves worked in the mines below, digging up rare minerals until their bodies broke. Most did not survive more than 2 years. Tay dropped out of hyperspace alone. His ship hung in the darkness at the edge of the system, watching. The defense platforms glowed like angry stars around the planet. Patrol ships moved in perfect patterns. Sensor arrays scanned every direction. For a long moment, he felt doubt. Not fear. He had forgotten how to feel fear. But doubt. What if this was truly impossible? What if he was about to die for nothing? Then he saw something beautiful. Points of light appeared behind him. 1, 2, 5, 10, 20. More and more, dropping out of hyperspace in ragged formation. Old freighters. Patched up fighters. Mining vessels with weapons welded to their hulls. 37 ships in total. Small. Weak. Hulled together by hope and rust. But they were there. They had come. Era's voice crackled through his communication system. Sorry we're late. Traffic was bad. Tay almost smiled. Almost. All ships, he said, his voice steady. Listen carefully. The defense platforms are our first target. Break into 3 groups. Hit them fast and hard. Don't try to win. Just distract them. Give me time to reach the surface. A chorus of voices answered. Some were scared. Some were eager. All were determined. For New Bizan, someone said. For everyone they took. Another added. Tay closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he pushed his engines to full power. The battle began. The Velek were surprised. They had expected the Ghost to come alone. They had not expected an army. Their defense platforms opened fire, filling space with burning light. 2 human ships exploded in the first 30 seconds. 3 more were damaged. But the others kept coming. Era led the first group against the eastern platforms. She was not a soldier. She was not trained for combat. But she had spent her whole life surviving in dangerous places, and she flew like someone who had nothing left to lose. Her ship twisted between plasma bolts. She fired missile after missile. 1 platform crumbled. The second group hit the western platforms. They were led by a man named Ho, a former prisoner Tay had freed 6 months ago. Ho had lost his entire family to the Velek. Now he was smiling as he flew into enemy fire. Come on, he shouted. Is that the best you have? The third group created chaos among the patrol ships. They scattered, regrouped, and scattered again, drawing the Velek in circles while Tay slipped through the gaps. His ship screamed toward the planet's surface. Defense fire scorched his hull. Alarms screamed. He ignored them. He had 1 target, 1 mission. Nothing else mattered. He crashed through the atmosphere and landed hard near the main prison entrance. The impact threw him against his controls. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. He wiped it away and grabbed his weapons. The prison doors were massive. 20 meters of reinforced metal. Tay planted charges and ran. The explosion tore the doors apart. Inside, Velek soldiers were waiting. Dozens of them. They opened fire the moment he appeared. Tay rolled behind a fallen beam and returned fire. He killed 3, 4, 5. They kept coming, but he was not alone anymore. Shuttles landed behind him. Humans poured out armed with stolen weapons and burning with purpose. They crashed into the Velek like a wave against rocks. The fighting was brutal, close, personal. Humans fell. Velek fell. The corridors filled with smoke and screaming. Tay pushed forward. He had studied the prison layout for weeks. He knew where the slaves from New Bizan were held. Level 7. Cell Block 9. He ran through corridors filled with chaos. He killed anyone who stood in his way. He did not think. He did not hesitate. He was not a man anymore. He was a weapon. Level 7 was darker than the others. The air smelled like blood and despair. Tay moved through the shadows, checking each cell. Empty, empty, empty. Then he heard a voice. Small, weak, afraid. Is someone there? He turned toward the sound. A cell at the end of the corridor. He ran to it and looked through the bars. Inside, huddled in the corner, was a thin girl with hollow eyes and dirty hair. She was maybe 12 years old. She looked at him without recognition, without hope, like she had forgotten what hope felt like, and her eyes focused on his face. And something changed. Papa? Tay's heart stopped. His knees went weak. He gripped the bars to keep himself standing. Sue, he whispered. I'm here. I'm here. He blasted the lock and pulled the door open. Sue did not move. She stared at him like he was a dream she was afraid to believe. Tay knelt beside her and pulled her into his arms. She was so thin, so light, he could feel her bones through her skin. 2 years of pain and hunger had broken her body. But she was alive. I found you, he said. His voice cracked. I found you. Sue started crying. Deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere beyond tears. She grabbed his shirt and held on like she would never let go. Mama, she whispered. Mama is gone. They made her work until she couldn't anymore. She protected me. She always protected me. Tay closed his eyes. The pain was enormous. Una, his wife, his love, gone. He had known it was possible. He had prepared himself. But preparing did not matter. Nothing prepared you for losing someone you loved. He held his daughter tighter. Your mother was the bravest person I ever knew, he said quietly. She saved you. That's what mattered to her. You mattered to her. Behind them, the fighting continued. Explosions shook the walls. But in that moment, Tay felt something he had not felt in 2 years. Peace. Broken, painful peace. But peace. He picked up Sue and carried her toward the exit. Around him, the human fighters were winning. The Velic guards were retreating. Prisoners were being freed by the hundreds. Outside, the sky was burning with battle. But Era was waiting by a shuttle, waving them forward. Move! She shouted. We have 5 minutes before their reinforcements arrive. Tay ran. Sue clung to his neck. He climbed into the shuttle and collapsed against the wall, still holding his daughter. Era looked at them. Then at Tay. Her eyes were soft. You did it, she said. Tay did not answer. He just held Sue and watched the prison burn behind them. He had done what he came to do. He had found his daughter. He had lost his wife. He had started a war. Now it was time to finish it. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Morith 5 had fallen. The largest Velic prison had been attacked and broken by a group of humans in rusted ships and borrowed weapons. 50,000 slaves were free. Thousands of Velic soldiers were dead. The ghost had done the impossible, and the galaxy changed forever. In the halls of power, the Velic dominion raged. Admiral Goreth stood before the High Council, his 4 arms trembling with fury. This cannot stand. We must crush them. Send the full fleet. The council agreed. 100 warships were ordered to hunt down the humans who had escaped from Morith 5. This would be the largest military action in Velic history. They would burn every ship, kill every human, and teach the galaxy what happened to those who defied them. But something unexpected happened. When the Velic fleet reached the border of human space, they found something waiting for them. Not the 37 broken ships from the prison raid. Not the small colonies they expected to crush easily. They found the Human Republic, Navy, hundreds of warships, carriers, destroyers, battle cruisers, every vessel humanity could gather, arranged in a wall between the Velic and their targets. They had been waiting. They had been preparing. And they were not alone. Behind the human fleet, other ships appeared. Maury vessels. Traders from the fringe. Refugees who had been freed by the Ghost over the past 2 years. Even representatives from Concord species who had grown tired of Velic cruelty. The Velic fleet stopped. They had expected easy prey. They found an army. A transmission came from the lead human ship. It was Ambassador Park Day, standing on the bridge with quiet authority. "This is your one warning," he said. "Any attack on human civilians will be met with total war. Not the kind of war, you know. Not the clean, controlled conflicts you fight against weaker species. Total war. Every ship we have. Every weapon. Every human who can hold a gun. We will not stop until one of us is destroyed." Admiral Gorath laughed. "You threaten us? We have conquered 100 worlds. And we have something you don't understand?" Park Day replied. "We have been watching one man bring your empire to its knees for 2 years. One man. Now imagine what we can do together. Leave, now, or find out." The Velic fleet held position for 6 hours. There were arguments, debates, threats, but in the end they turned around, not because they were afraid of losing. They still had more ships, more soldiers, more resources. But they had seen what humans could do when pushed. They had watched a single man burn 17 outposts, free thousands of prisoners, and destroy their greatest prison. They had heard the stories. The ghost who would not die. The humans who would not surrender. And they realized something terrible. This war would never end. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not calculate acceptable losses. They did not make treaties when the odds turned against them. They held grudges. They remembered. They came back. The Velic could win battles. But they could not win this war. Not completely. Not ever. One by one, the Velic's allies abandoned them. The Concord passed resolutions condemning the attack on New Bizan. Trade agreements were broken. Diplomatic ties were cut. The Great Velic Dominion, rulers of 40 star systems, found itself alone and despised. Within a year, the Dominion's government collapsed. New leaders emerged who wanted peace. They signed treaties. They released slaves. They paid compensation to the worlds they had destroyed. It was not justice. Justice was impossible for so much pain. But it was something. And through it all, the galaxy remembered the name of the man who started it. The Ghost. The father who declared war on an empire to save his daughter. Kong Te. 10 years later, on a quiet world far from the old battle lines, Te woke up early. The sun was just rising over the hills, painting the sky orange and gold. He walked outside to tend his garden vegetables mostly, some flowers that Yuna would have liked. He was older now. Gray had spread through his hair. His body carried scars that would never fully heal. But his eyes were different. Still hard when they needed to be. But softer too. More alive. "Papa." Sue called from the house. "Breakfast is ready." He smiled. His daughter was 22 now. She had grown tall and strong, though the shadows of Morith 5 never completely left her eyes. She had become a pilot, one of the best in the new human interstellar republic. She flew supply runs to colonies in the fringe, bringing food and medicine to people who needed help. She had her mother's kindness. Her mother's strength. Te walked inside and sat at the table. Sue had made his favorite breakfast, eggs with vegetables, the way Yuna used to make it. They ate together in comfortable silence. On the wall hung a single medal, the first one ever given by the New Republic. The inscription read, "For the man who reminded the galaxy what one human can do." Te never talked about it. He never told stories about the war. When reporters came asking for interviews, he turned them away. When historians wanted to record his memories, he said he had forgotten. He had not forgotten anything. But some memories were not meant to be shared. A knock came at the door. Sue got up to answer it. Era stood outside, older now too, but still with the same sharp eyes and knowing smile. She visited sometimes when her work allowed. She had become important in the new galaxy, a diplomat, a negotiator, someone who built bridges between species. But she always made time to see them. "Hello, old man," she said to Tay. "You're late," he replied. "Traffic was bad." It was their joke. Their way of remembering the day, everything changed. They sat on the porch and watched Sue work on her ship in the yard. She was adjusting the engine, humming a song Una used to sing. The sound made Tay's heart ache and sing at the same time. "The stars still talk about you," Era said quietly. "You know that, right? You're in their history books. Their songs. Their stories." Tay shrugged. "I was just a man who lost everything. I did what anyone would have done." "No," Era said. "You did what no one else could have done. You showed them that we don't break, that one of us is enough to change everything." Tay did not answer. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small faded shoe, pink with white flowers. He had carried it for 12 years. He would carry it until he died. Sue finished her work and wiped her hands on a rag. She looked up and saw him holding the shoe. She walked over and sat beside him. "Mom would be proud," she said softly, "of both of us." Tay put his arm around his daughter and watched the sun rise higher over their small piece of peace. He had burned worlds. He had killed hundreds. He had declared war on an empire that ruled 40 star systems. And he had won. But this quiet morning with his daughter beside him and the ghosts finally at rest, this was the victory that mattered. The galaxy had learned what one human could do. Now, he was just a father, growing old. Watching his daughter fly. It was enough. It was everything.